All right.
All right, there. All right. It's Friday. It's close to Friday evening. It's Arknolia and the Doctor. This is episode. What is it? Dang gummit.
15,
Episode
I believe.
15. Yes, it is. I got to keep track on how many episodes we got here. And tonight, it's our. We're taking a look at one of the most powerful bands that emerged from the 1960s in jolly old England. A big group that are still together, but somehow, according to others, to many of their fans, sadly, some of the spunk had departed when two of their most powerful members passed away. I'm speaking,
Right.
of course, The Who. And we know The Who like the back of our hands. Roger Daltrey on vocals, Pete Townsend on guitar and songwriting. He was the principal songwriter. Keith Moon on drums, and John Entwistle on the bass guitar. And a lot of people, including various critics, including myself as well, I guess you could say this group was kind of considered one of the premium first original proto-punk bands to ever emerge. Years before the Iggy Pop and the Stooges, and years before the MC5. And when you really look at the kind of the attitudes of some of the lyrics in Townsend's songwriting there, now I could tell you right there that these guys were like very notorious for a lot of things. Well, actually, more the drummer would put forth there, because he has a massive history of destroying hotel rooms, cars, his own drum kit at times.
Yeah, and they were different in the fact that both Moon and Entwistle actually did a lot of soloing, which was unusual for a drummer and a bass player to do that.
I only know this one solo record Keith Moon released, and I forgot the name. It
Well,
was
no,
some.
I'm talking about solos within the Who.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because I
And
know
actually, Entwistle had at least two solo albums,
yeah, John Entwistle's Ox. One of them was entitled "Smash Your Head Against the Wall." I
yeah,
remember that.
which is a great song, by the way.
Yeah, and of course, Roger Daltrey. He's one of the most powerful frontmen next to Robert Plant and Ozzy Osbourne, and of course, probably the most profound songwriter with a lot of angst, with a lot of teen. I don't know what it kind of to describe his songwriting throughout the years, but there was a lot of angst in his lyrics there. A lot of not necessarily angst, but a lot of attitude, which added to that angst. So this is why I often christen them as one of the first punk rock bands out there, because they had a lot of punk attitude way before punk even emerged. We all know the story behind when they played Woodstock back in '69 at about 3 a.m. Pete Townsend smacking the crap out of Abby Hoffman, the yippie activist, when he came on to make a small speech during their set.
Yeah, he was. Townsend's a true individualist.
He is, absolutely. He's at that time when people said, where they were against nuclear war, he was actually for it, believe it or not.
Doesn't surprise me knowing his personality.
Yeah. And of course, Townsend, as he's the one who penned all those classic songs of theirs, like "Substitute," where the guy tells this girl, "I'm just some substitute for somebody else." What the hell, man?
Yeah,
And of course, we know "My Generation" with the line "Hope I Die Before I Get On," which I understand was came about as some old late British lady, kind of like this is sort of a facial expression towards him out of disgust or something like that, and that's when he wrote that song soon afterwards.
yeah,
So, and it's fit to say that the Who's the power that this band had, was unstoppable.
yeah. They were basically almost metal before metal.
Yeah, or a bad punk or metal there when you think about it. Now,
Yeah,
as now they've had a lot of influence. They have sold over 1 million records worldwide. You know, A lot of
Um,
drummers, would consider Moon a god because of the way he often played his drums in a most absolute, what they call a spaz mode kind of a way, I guess you would see.
Absolutely frenetic.
Yeah,
He, he was quite the drummer.
yeah, exactly. I mean, who could not forget their appearance on the Smothers Brothers TV show back in, I guess it was 65, 66, or
Yeah, that
64?
even surprised the other band members what he
Yeah,
did.
what he did is he planted this little bomb inside of the bass drum in his drum kit there, and after they got done smashing some of their equipment, boom, he set it off. There was a big explosion there, and purportedly that's when some Pete Townsend's hearing started going to waste soon afterwards.
When you saw his reaction, it was like, what?
Yeah, or especially or see John Entwistle just move it away slowly.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, Entwistle and Moon got along together great. They were
Yes,
good friends,
they were
but the other two guys were kind of weren't really friends with anybody, including each other. They were just kind of there.
just bandmates.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no secret that a lot of times, I guess I could say that Daltrey and Townsend often fought with one another a lot of times. But then again, that often adds to the chemistry, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Well, when I read through their little entry, I was amazed at some of the stuff I was reading because it was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. There's a lot of history to that band early.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've read it yet or not, but
Yeah,
man, there's stuff there that I'm kind of like, really?
yeah. Okay, well, you cannot say that The Who was not a boring band, I guess you would say. In
Oh,
fact,
absolutely not.
and it also fits to say that Roger Daltrey also became the epitome of the blonde, long-haired, curly. I'm going to say, what am I talking about? Blonde, curly, long-haired singer with a wearing a fringed vest, swinging his microphone around.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff they did on stage was very innovative. Moon's drumming, Entwistle's bass licks, uh,
Dal-
Townsend's windmill guitar playing thing he
Yeah,
did.
which by the way he copied from Keith Richards while backstage or opening for the Rolling Stones. So apparently what it was is that he saw Keith, Richard warming up before a show there before they were about to go on, and he was kind of like, I like that. Maybe I should try that. And apparently when Townsend brought it up to that one time, Keith apparently gave him a kind of upsetting look. He said, "Yeah, I had to stop doing that because of you, man."
Yeah.
Yeah. And but let's not forget Townsend. Often at times, a lot of times during the '70s, he was also known for being a raging alcoholic. A lot of times, I mean, you look at some of the footage that they did at that theater for the documentary film "The Kids Are All Right." You could tell he's kind of like on the buzzed side there.
Yeah. Of course, Moon was famous for that.
Yeah, he was a heavy ass drinker when you think about it. And in fact, believe it or not, at that time when he was drinking so much that whenever he tried to quit, he would have these, his hands would shake, he would have these seizures, and the only solution at that time, was to keep on drinking. And
Yeah.
eventually, believe it or not, by the time the album "Who Are You" came out, there was a see that he was getting himself a belly, and they had to resort to him sitting behind a chair in this derby outfit with
And it
the
was kind of ironic because the chair said not to be taken away,
yep,
and he died
absolutely,
3 months later.
absolutely. In 1978, that was one of the first, actually the first records I got from them. Believe it or not, I got it as little. I think it was a Christmas gift. I think it was. Somebody thought because I heard the song "Who Are You" a couple times
Yeah.
on the radio at the time. I liked it. It's a pretty good song. It's kind of long, but I liked it.
First one I got was Who Magic Bus Tour or
Ah,
something. That particular album.
yeah. And of course, we staying over at a relative's house. I think it was an aunt or an uncle, and it was like, "How long is this song?" Because it was about how many minutes? 5 minutes, 6 minutes
It was
there.
5.5 minutes, something like that.
And let's also acknowledge this: the CSI franchise that's on CBS. They have used Who songs like "Won't Get Food Again," "Baba O'Reilly," and of course, who the song I mentioned earlier, "Who Are You," as their
Yeah,
theme music. And they also because that also generated a new interest in the group, and that's how they ended up being playing the halftime show at one of the Super Bowls. I think it was in 2010, I believe it was.
I believe so. I don't recall exactly.
Now, here's the problem with that. With a problem, well, not necessarily a problem with that performance. And I don't like halftime performances because they always edited the songs, do two verses and the choruses, and they switch on to another song, which is to me
Right.
is bullshit. Even though wasn't really fond of the Stones performances in Super Bowl 40, I give them credit for doing three songs all the way through.
Yeah, Super Bowl performances, I, they're I generally ignore them because they're, well, like you said, they're shortened. A lot of times they're not that good because they got to do the showy bit on it, and a lot of times it's artists I don't care for.
And plus, so many about every time there somebody plays, there's all the critics are going to find something to poke at. Like for instance, they went after Prince because of the way he was holding his guitar. Oh, behind some curtain while they were doing Purple Rain. They were like, "Oh, come on! Oh, he's holding the thing guitar like it's his dick." Blah blah blah, and that kind of bullshit. There, it's like they always find something to complain about. And this was after the Janet Jackson quote unquote wardrobe malfunction scenario back in 2004.
I'm pretty much convinced that was on purpose.
I'm thinking the same thing. That was done to generate publicity for both Timberlake and Jackson because at that
It was
time,
just too contrived. It was too rehearsed.
yeah,
I mean, it just looked obvious. It
yeah,
didn't look like it was an accident.
yeah, obviously, we all know. I mean, Rush Limbaugh said it best. They probably high-fived the hell out of each other. Ha ha, we got some massive attention. Now let's enjoy the record sales after that. Because the phrase, controversy creates cash. I think that's why it was done.
Probably.
Yeah,
Doesn't surprise me.
yeah,
But the whole thing just looked rehearsed
yeah.
because I happened to be watching that particular one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I had a TV at that time at the
Well,
place
it's
I was
funny
living
because
in.
I was sitting there watching it, and I'm kind of like half interested because I don't like either one of those performers.
Neither the do record I.
And
Sales after that, because the
I'm
phrase
just sitting there kind of,
controversy
okay,
creates
okay, it's nearly
cash.
over.
That I think
Then he
that's
reaches
why
over and grabs that little thing and pulls, and
rip.
I'm like, did I see what I just saw? And I had to read about it later, like, oh, I did see what I saw.
Wow, man.
'Cause I thought I was hallucinating.
And
Like,
excuse me. And would you agree that somehow that kind of contributed to the fall of Janet's career?
yeah, which I don't think she had that much of a career anyway. But
Yeah,
again, personal opinion.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, she ain't got
I
much.
was,
Well, it's a lot better career than Latoya had. That's for sure.
yeah.
When you have to play state fairs at that time, that tells you that's something ain't right there.
Well, Latoya didn't fool around with showing herself in the Super Bowl. She actually had a Playboy spread.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know if Janet did that or not,
I don't know.
but
I
I
just
know Latoya did.
yeah, I remember that. That's around the time she was making accusations against her father for sexually abusing her.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
let me go off the subject here. I get to ask you this: with all
okay.
the accusations of Joe Jackson, who we remember had died a couple years back, their father. When you look at how dysfunctional the Jackson brothers and sisters became, and when you look at the way Michael was acting, with all that scenario with him being a child molester and stuff, do you think
Yeah.
he possibly may? You think possibly he may have done something like that to his kids? Because it's no secret that he did whoop the crap out of them a lot of times.
Yeah, I think there was something going on, but nothing's been proven. So all we can do is speculate.
Yeah,
And I kind of think there was something going on because from what I hear, Joe Jackson was a very you sling
fascist.
the whip type guy,
He was, yeah.
and that he kept everybody in line, and he made all the decisions and all of that good stuff.
Including the contracts. When they left Motown Records, they had to stop using the Jackson Five and go as the Jacksons. The only one who didn't, they had these contracts signed out there for expecting Jermaine to sign. Jermaine didn't sign because it wasn't because he was dating Berry Gordy's daughter. He also Motown was going through some issues. He wanted to stay and help with Motown. But
Right.
Papa Joe was like, no, you're deserting the Jackson name. You're deserting this. You're blah blah blah. It's my blood, not Berry Gordy's.
Yeah. No, and Joe was well. We're doing a Jackson discussion. We're on the Who,
Yeah,
but oh well.
I know. Well, back to the Who. We had to get that out of our system there. Now,
Yeah.
as you know, the Who basically developed from an earlier group known as the Detours. They established themselves as part of the pop art and mod movements during the early years of that scene there,
Yeah.
including some auto-destructive art by destroying guitars and drums on stage. Their first single, "I Can't Explain," reached the UK top 10 and was followed by a string of singles, including "Happy Jack," "Substitute," and of course their signature song, "My Generation." They also
Yeah.
performed at the Monterey Pop Festival, released the U.S. top 10 single, "I Can See for Miles," while touring extensively. Their fourth album was, of course, the rock opera "Tommy."
Yeah. Uh, there's an interesting little bit in here about how the guitar thing happened.
Hmm.
It says that in June '64, during a performance at the Railway, Townsend accidentally broke the head of the guitar
Yep,
on the low ceiling
yep.
on stage,
Yeah, he threw it up in the air and it just went bing, and it fell down. It's like, oh shit, I broke my guitar.
and he was angered by the way the audience was laughing at him. So he smashed the instrument on the stage, then picked up another guitar and continued the show.
Ah,
The
and
following week, the audience were keen to see a repeat,
yeah, the
and
place was packed. There was not much of a. I don't know how much people was in that crowd when that happened, but but the next time they played the same place, that joint was packed.
yeah, and Keith Moon obliged by kicking his drum set over.
Ah,
And auto-destructive art became a feature of the Who's live set.
oh yeah,
Because of that, of the two of them. Because Entwistle and Daltrey pretty much stayed out of that.
yeah, they did. The only destructive thing that happened to Daltrey he ever did was swing his microphone couple of times around by the cord. I guess soon after that, I guess I don't know if the part of the microphone came off because of the thing where it clicks on, but
Right.
soon after there was a lot of duct tape on Daltrey's microphone. Soon afterwards,
Yeah.
and John Entwistle, he never smashed any of his bass guitars, that's for sure. And God knows he had a lot of original looking ones there.
Yeah.
You look at the promo film for "Who Are You," and you could tell you cannot help but dig the kind of bass guitar that he was playing.
Yeah. They Entwistle also had an interesting costume, and I forget which concert he did it at. Maybe it was Monterey. I don't remember.
Hmm.
But he wore a skeleton outfit,
Yeah, I remember seeing about that as well. I think I saw pictures about that.
and there's a little bit further up about how they got Moon because they had a different guy doing the drums when they
Yeah,
first
oh
started.
my gosh, it was at the Cow Palace, and I guess it was in the L.A. area. apparently Keith Moon took this horse tranquilizer. They had to get somebody over to inject some sort of a medicine or fluid into him to keep him going. And next thing you know, he leans over, he's zoned out again. They had to carry him from his drum kit. Townsend gets on the mic and says, "Can anybody here play the drums?" And a 19-year-old boy, or man, whatever, teenager, got up there and just filled in the spot for him, believe it or not.
Yeah, but actually, I was talking about before Keith Moon.
Ah, really?
They had a guy by the name of what was the guy's name?
Oh,
Sandham is the last name, but I don't recall. I think it's Chris Sandham.
oh,
He was their drummer, and they had just gotten regular gigs and stuff. And the manager told him, "Look, you're going to have to replace the drummer. He's bad."
yeah,
And basically, they went to fire him, and the guy's like, "Oh, great. Okay, I'm leaving. But you guys can go ahead and use my drum kit and find my potential stand-in." And
wow,
essentially, they kept doing gigs with stand-in drummers till Moon showed up at one of the gigs and said, "Hey, let me get a shot at it." He went up there and played, and apparently impressed the heck out of them. And they said, "Okay, uh, you can be our drummer." And
there you
Keith
go.
Moon became their drummer.
Yep, until of course until his 1978 death there.
Yeah. And then one of the other things early in their careers, Daltrey was the leader, the boss, the guy that said what was going to go and what wasn't going to go.
Yep.
And he basically got fired and had to leave the band. And then they went back to England, and this was overseas somewhere,
Ah,
and told him, "Look, we'll take you back, but you're not the boss anymore. This is a democracy."
it's an all
Because
band.
they were doing whatever Daltrey wanted early.
And that's not how a band runs. It has all four. If it's a four-piece group, all four sides have to always give a go in on what goes on, whether it's
Right,
musically or management directly.
right.
Yeah. Now we also know the album Tommy. Now here's something else. Soon after that album became a commercial success, Townsend was writing for another concept album titled Lifehouse. The
Right.
songs from that album was later that concept was later abandoned, and the songs stemming from those sessions will later end up on that album we know as Who's Next.
And several other places because there were a lot of songs.
Yeah,
I mean, he wrote, it looked to be like a 4 or 5 record set by the time he got. It's been released, but I don't recall how big it is.
yeah,
I probably have it, but I'm not sure.
yeah.
Townsend had a lot of solo albums.
Yeah. The Scoob, the Empty Glass, which I had. He had this one called Who Came First. And there's one album that I was especially fond of. All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. I remember buying that record when I saw the video for Face Dances Part 2.
Yeah, and he had another one called, I think it was Rough Mix,
Yes,
which was him and Ronnie Lane.
I think so, yes. And also, we can't forget White City, a novel. We cannot forget that one record which title escapes me, which came out with The Who came back in 1989. And we also cannot forget The Iron Giant, or The
Yeah,
Iron Man, as what it's called. It was, I guess, was about an alien who plunges to Earth, a giant metal iron individual,
yeah,
and befriends with a little small boy, and that later became the Iron Giant movie, the
yeah.
animated movie there, which came out in 19, I guess, what was it, 19, was it in the later 90s or later part of the 1980s?
I actually don't recall for sure.
I probably have to look that up there, because I remember Townsend was, people were saying, Townsend does receive a lot of credit because he's the one who came up with the concept.
Yeah, and I think Daltrey had a solo. I want to say he had a solo album, but I think it was a movie soundtrack.
Yeah, Mick Vigor came out in
Yeah,
1980. He played the lead character.
Yeah, and there was I think there was a song called "Free Me" or something like that
Yes, I remember
that
he
was
said,
big off that album.
yes. Yeah, it was played a lot on radio. A lot of rock radio was playing that movie there. Oh,
Yeah,
excuse me, that song. My bad. Came out in
they were one of those
1990.
people that had better solo careers than most other groups who try solo, other than the Beatles, of course.
Yes. Now, here's some information on the Iron Giant. It was based on the 1968 novel The Iron Man by Ted Hughes, which was published in the U.S. as The Iron Giant. It was scripted
Right,
by Tim McCanlies from a story treatment by a person named Bird. Brad Bird. It was the director who he was the director of that movie. The film stars the voice of Vin Diesel, voicing the main character, Jennifer Aniston, Christopher McDonald, John Mahoney, and Harry Connick Jr. Set in the Cold War in 1957, the boy centers on a young boy named Hogarth Hughes, who discovers and befriends a giant metallic robot who fell from outer space. And with the help of a beatnik artist named Dean McCoppin, the boy attempts to prevent the U.S. Army and Kent Mansley, who is a paranoid federal agent, from fighting and destroying this giant. And I'm looking here. It was also, and apparently, because I believe that was also what I mentioned. It became the subject of one of Townsend's albums.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, Basically, kind of getting into the music a little bit.
yeah,
Their first album was in the U.S. because anytime we discuss albums that are in two different places, we'll
yes.
talk about the U.S. issue,
Okay,
uh, even though there are some differences. But their first album in the U.S. was The Who Sings My Generation.
yeah,
And that particular album was kind of hastily thrown together, they said, and it wasn't up to what they wanted to do, although there's some good songs on here. I mean, My Generation's on there.
correct. Yes,
The Kids Are All Right uh, and A Legal Matter are the ones that most people probably heard. It's Not True is a decent song. Please, Please, Please is a James Brown cover. And that album wasn't bad. What was really weird, though, is that second album in the listing that I'm seeing is called a compilation album, which I find kind of weird because I didn't consider it a compilation album at all. It's the one I was talking about earlier, Magic Bus, The
yes,
Who on Tour.
yes,
Yeah, I got that album. Like I said, I considered it was their to me it was their second album, and it's got great songs on it. I think.
yeah. Including the
Uh,
title cut.
yeah, it's got one called Disguises. It's good. It's got another one called Run, Run, Run. Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde, which is a John Entwistle song. You can tell when you hear it,
Yes,
it's definitely Entwistle because Entwistle was kind of out there, but in a good way.
yeah. Let's give Entwistle his due. He did contribute some couple of good songs out there. On Face Dances, he had song called "The Quiet One," and of course on the Who Are You album, he did this one song called 509, which I thought was pretty good there.
Yeah, and then, well, we'll get to some of his stuff, but some of the other songs in this album were I Can't Reach You, which was good. Call Me Lightning, which is a decent song. Some of these were minor hits. Magic Bus, of course. And Pictures of Lily, which is a real interesting
Oh
song.
yeah, so I heard about. It's about masturbation.
Yeah, it's about a guy that couldn't sleep his night, so Dad says, "Here, let me give you something that'll help you sleep," which was Pictures of Lily,
Oh,
which taught the kid how to masturbate, like you said.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Yeah, they didn't have any boundaries per se outside of ones that would really put them in trouble.
Wow.
But they followed that album up with one with Happy Jack.
Yes. And if you ever saw the little clip or video, as it now called, you'll dig the video because it is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it's a nice little song actually.
Yeah, it is.
And this album had Boris the Spider on it, which is probably the most famous ant whistle song.
Oh yeah.
That's a great song
And
actually.
that's probably an inspiration for anybody out there who has any pet spiders or what name to call it.
Boris, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it also had Whiskey Man on this song, which was another ant whistle composition, which basically was he had a friend that would show up when he drank whiskey,
Yeah.
Whiskey Man.
Ah.
And one of the songs in this album that was started the trend toward, we got to do rock operas, was one called A Quick One While He's Away,
Yeah,
which
that's
was a very mini opera, but it's essentially of the beginning of an opera.
yeah, but and we know the opera that would come after that, the album Tommy.
Right. But they released another album before that called The Who Sell Out,
Oh
which was
yeah.
basically they
Yeah, I
they were
heard
making
about
fun
this
of it.
record.
They were making fun of the fact that groups were selling out and such, and they had these fake ads all through
I
the
know,
album.
yes, I remember seeing that. And it also had a commercial jingles in between the songs.
Right. It was essentially just kind of like making fun of that kind of thing. And I Can See for Miles was on this album,
Oh
which
yeah,
to me
good
was one of
song.
the really big songs there of the
Yes,
early years. That's one of the
absolutely.
to me that was one of the biggest ones of the early
I know
years.
exactly. And by the way, to all the record, to whoever is distributing their albums on vinyl nowadays, get a hold of this record and distribute that along with the earlier ones. Let the kids, of today check those songs out for shizzle, man.
Yeah, because they like you said they had little commercial jingles that were fake running all through the album.
And that was avant-garde than that when you look at it, man.
Yeah, good little album actually.
It was it definitely stood out.
Yeah, it's interesting because they were one of the few groups that you could listen to their albums and there was something behind it. And then of course they released the big one, well, one of the big ones, which was the Tommy thing,
Tommy, one of the
which
first rock operas out there. And I guess the story, if I understand, takes place out. Now, the story behind the quick one while he's away is about a woman, who is waiting for her man, and I guess he never shows up. So she, basically, if I'm correct, goes up and cheats on her man with
yeah,
somebody else.
right,
Yeah, of a little liaison there. We've heard that
right,
so many of that shit go on so many times in stories, movies, books, drama shows like Maury or Richard Bay, Jerry Springer. We've seen all that stuff happens all the
right.
time. But apparently, there was a story that the kid is allegedly sees some sort of incident happen and he decides to become deaf, dumb, and blind just a way as ignoring it.
Hang on a minute.
Okay, gotcha. Let me look it up here on the Wikipedia here about that album.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things there that. And the interesting thing is when I first got this, when I got the 8 track,
Yes.
which there's at least 2 songs missing on the 8 track, and one song that was cut way short And I never knew all of that till I got the album and played it. I'm like, whoa, what's this
Yes.
all about? And found out. But some of the, I guess, for lack of a better word, interesting ones here were I liked Amazing Journey and Sparks.
Yeah. Now, Townsend came up with the concept of the album after being introduced to the work of Mahir Baba and attempted to translate Baba's teachings into music. Recording on the album began in September of '68, and it took 6 months to complete as material needed to be arranged and recorded in the studio. It was acclaimed upon its release by critics who hailed it as The Who's breakthrough. Its critical standing diminished slightly in later years. Nevertheless, several writers view it as an important and influential album in the history of rock and roll. They promoted the album's release with an extensive tour, including a live version of the whole album, playing the album
Right.
in its entirety, which lasted through about '69 and 1970. Key gigs from the tour included appearances on Woodstock, the '69 Isle of Wight Festival, University of Leeds, the Metropolitan Opera House, and the 1970 Isle of Wight Festival. And the live performances drew critical praise and rejuvenated the band's career.
Yeah. And we still had a couple of, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
interesting songs on this album. The one about the evil little cousin Kevin,
Yes.
and the one about Wicked Uncle Ernie Fiddle About.
Yeah. And now the rock opera has developed into other forms of media, as we know. It was a Seattle Opera production, '71, an orchestral version by Lou Reisner in the following year, a movie starring Daltrey
Oh, the
himself. Yep,
and Margaret was in that movie.
absolutely, along with I guess Elton John and Tina Turner as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, and a Broadway musical back in 1992.
yeah. The biggest song in this album that people are going to remember is Pinball Wizard,
Absolutely, that was one of the big hits from that album.
and covered by Elton John.
Oh yeah, in the movie as well.
Yeah, and well, to me, one of the biggest ones in that was "We're Not Gonna Take It."
Oh yeah,
That's a great song. One of their
absolutely.
it it became a hallmark for them live, and they even incorporated in some live versions of other songs.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget when the Who came back in 1989, they did some performances of Tommy, and one was actually done. I guess it was a pay-per-view. I guess it was, and the guests included, I guess, Tina Turner, Billy Idol, and a couple others as well.
Yeah, because Tina Turner,
Played the
they
Acid
had her.
Queen.
Yeah, they had her. That was what I was going to say. They had her playing the Acid Queen, which was interesting.
Yeah, and of course, the Who at this time was, of course, a trio. It was Entwistle, Daughtry, and Townsend. With Simon Phillips, who was a well-respected session drummer as taking over Keith Moon's chores there. Now, of course,
Right,
by the way, their drummer currently is Zach Starkey, who happens to be the son of of Beatle Ringo Starr.
right.
Yeah. So the Who definitely really caught a massive amount of attention for this album here, and I'm trying to find the story behind the complete story behind the album itself. Well, what the whole thing was about? Was the boy kid Tommy born deaf, dumb, and blind in actual, or some sort of a birth defect, or did he witness some sort of an incident and try to
Well,
cloud it out? Go ahead.
if you follow the story, he witnesses something between his mother and his father
Yeah.
that apparently they killed the mother's lover or something.
Oh,
He witnessed it, and there's a song there's you didn't see it, you didn't hear it, you won't see nothing, no, you'll never. And suddenly he was deaf, dumb, and blind.
yeah.
So it was what's I don't recall what the word is, but it was a traumatic thing that caused it to happen.
Yeah.
There is a word for that, but I can't think of what it is. Uh,
Well, here's the story right here. British Army Captain Walker goes missing during the expedition and is believed to be dead. The overture. His wife, Mrs. Walker, gives birth to their son, Tommy. It's a boy, the song that's talking about. Years later,
right,
Captain Walker returns home, discovers that his wife has found a new lover, a quick one while she's away.
right,
The captain kills the lover in the altercation. Tommy's mother brainwashes her son to believing that he didn't see or hear anything, shutting down his senses, making him deaf, dumb, and blind to the outside world. In the song 1921, Tommy now
right,
relies on his sense of touch and imagination, developing a fascinating inner psyche in the displayed in the song Mazy Journey in Sparks. A,
right,
a quack claims that his wife can cure Tommy, the song The Hawker, while Tommy's parents are increasingly frustrated that he'll never find religion in the midst of his isolation, the song Christmas. They
right.
begin to neglect him, leaving him to be tortured by his sadistic cousin
Cousin,
Kevin and molested by his uncle Ernie, the song
right,
Fiddle About. The hawker's drug addicted wife, the acid queen, gives Tommy a dose of LSD, causing a hallucinate experience that is expressed musically in the track Undertour.
yeah,
As Tommy grows older, he discovers that he can feed very vibrations significantly well to becoming an expert pinball player, the song Pinball Wizard. His parents
right,
take him to a well respected doctor. There's a doctor who determines that the boy's disabilities are psychosomatic.
yeah. Psychosomatic. That was the word
Yes,
I was looking for.
yes, rather than physical. Tommy is told by the doctor to go to the mirror, and his parents notice that he could stare at his reflection. After seeing Tommy spend extended periods staring at a mirror in the house, his mother smashes it out of frustration. The song Smash the Mirror.
Right,
This removes Tommy's mental block, and he recovers his senses, realizing that he can become a powerful leader in this, that's stated in the song Sensation. He starts a religious movement, the track I'm Free, which generates fever among his adherents, I think it's called, the song Sally Simpson,
right.
and expands it to a holiday camp, which is, of course, Welcome and Tommy's Holiday Camp. I guess Keith Moon does the vocals for that track.
Yeah,
However,
funny little song.
however, the followers of Tommy ultimately rejects his teachings and leave the camp. Of course, we're not going to take it. Tommy
Right.
retreats inward again, see me, feel me, and with this continued state of wonder, that which was him, encompasses him. There we go.
Yeah,
And
that's it's good continuity. It's a good and it's a story you can follow and you kind of know what's going on. It's well done.
yeah, it's true. Very well done and well respected, beyond well respected.
And they followed that up with probably one of their overall best albums,
Oh yeah,
single album sets, Who's Next,
yeah, so
which, like you mentioned, was basically from the Lifehouse project.
yeah, it was supposed to have been called Life House, and it was supposed to be a follow up to, I guess, another concept album that the Who was going to come up with. And I
Right,
guess, from what I understand, it was a story about what if about an area where, let me look it up. Son of a name goat. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Rock opera. Okay, here we go. Now, it was an unfinished science fiction rock opera by The Who, intended as a follow up to Tommy. He was later abandoned during the project in favor of creating the traditional rock album Who's Next. Though some of
Right.
those songs would later go on to various albums and singles by The Who, as well as some of Townsend's solo records, in 1978, aspects of the Lifehouse project were revisited by The Who on the album Who Are You? In two,
Yeah.
who in 2000, Townsend revived the Lifehouse concept with the his set Lifehouse Chronicles and the sampler Lifehouse Elements on the May 1st, 2007. He released an online software called the Lifehouse Method, in which any sitter could create a musical portrait. And that site now is defunct. No more.
Yeah. But the Who's Next album had some
Massively
very
big.
strong songs.
Massively big.
Started with Baba O'Reilly, which
Yep.
that opening little thing they do.
Which was a synthesizer, by the way. And the title
Yeah.
comes from the Baba Meyer Baba that I mentioned as well as an electronic musician named Terry O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And I guess
And
this Baba individual was the one who coined the well-known phrase that we still use today, "Don't worry, be happy," which of course Bobby
Bobby
McFerrin made.
McFerrin.
Bobby
Yeah.
McFerrin made it to a big-time hit.
Yeah. But this song, from what I understand, when they first did it, they had a lot of trouble playing it live for some reason. But actually, I saw them in concert before Entwistle died,
Yeah.
and they pulled it off. I
Oh
mean, they
yeah.
played that song, and it pulled it off great.
To me, the best versions on the Kids Are Alright soundtrack when he did that concert at the theater, which was, of course, the last performance Keith Moon did before his death.
Yeah.
And it was just you could just see how wasted Townsend is on stage there with him bouncing around, jumping around during the last section of the song where Daltrey does his harmonica solo during the there.
Yeah. And then they followed that song with Bargain, which is another
Great song.
really good song.
Yep. Do
And
whatever I
then,
can. Do whatever I can, girl. To have you with me.
yeah. And then followed that with Love Ain't for Keeping, which was another good song. And then the only Entwistle song on this album, My Wife,
Ah.
which is talking about his wife chasing him because he'd been messing around or whatever.
Oh boy.
And it's a nice little song, actually.
And of course, we cannot forget the ending of that song. This song is over,
Right, because
which is
that
a
actually kind of goes into Pure and Easy, which they release as a follow-up, and it also shows up on Odds and Sods.
yeah. Which, by the way,
But
is a very powerful song when you listen to it there.
yeah, so if you put Song Is Over and Pure and Easy together, that's about 11 minutes. Because
Ah.
Song Is Over was 6 minutes, Pure and Easy was about 5 minutes.
Ah. So you got a two-parter right there, just not even knowing about this.
Yeah, and when you hear the Song Is Over, the very last little bit they did is the opening to Pure and Easy.
Mm,
You know, accepting one note, Pure and Easy.
there we go.
And then they open side two with Getting in Tune, which is cool. I mean, you're sitting there getting in tune. I sing this note because it fits in well with the chords I'm playing.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And then Going Mobile, which was another pretty good
Yeah.
song.
Mm-hmm. I guess
Then
that's
a big
go-
one, Behind Blue Eyes,
Oh yes,
which
absolutely,
that's a great song. It
absolutely.
had a very bad cover by Limp Bizkit.
I was gonna mention that. Come on, who you talk about bad covers? That was probably one of the worst covers of that song ever. Yeah, I
That would
thought
probably be almost number
stupid,
one.
stupid. I mean, when you listen to the Limp Bizkit crap ass version, they removed the bridge, they
Right.
removed they just kept it at the same tempo, which made no sense. What the hell happened to when my fist clenches, crack it open, before I use it, lose my cool? What happened to that section, man? Come on,
Yeah, I mean,
Fred Durst, you idiot.
yeah,
Come
that
on.
whole thing didn't make any sense at all.
Man, oh gosh, man. If you're going to do that song, do it in the original form or something like the original form. But remain true to the concept and the style that it was done, okay?
Yeah, and then of course they closed it with "Won't Get Fooled Again," which is an anthem,
Yep,
you might say.
yep,
In fact, it's got one of my favorite lines in it, which kind of, for me, epitomizes the recent election. Meet the old new boss, same as the old boss.
yep. Pretty,
That's pretty much describes it for me.
yeah, so it's absolutely. And of course, we all know that song would later be two song, what the two, actually, two Bob O'Reilly, of course, Won't Get Food Again would later become theme music for a couple of CSI shows there. Later on, though, when
Right.
it was aired on CBS, apparently I don't know if the guy behind it was a big Who fan, but that
Sure
did,
makes you wonder.
yep. Of course, as we all know, later on, I guess one of the other CSI shows that came out within that franchise had "Who Are You" as its theme music there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they had a CSI. Well, the original was Las Vegas,
yeah.
then CSI Miami, and I think the third one was CSI New York,
And what I remember was a CSI crime scene investigation. I believe Forrest
which is the
Whitaker,
original,
yeah, which starred
which
Ted
had
Dancing.
yeah, eventually he came later,
Yeah,
but that is set in Las Vegas.
yeah,
Then they followed it up with another rock opera,
yep.
Quadrophenia,
Oh yeah, and I understand this album is takes place during the what is it called, the Rockers versus the Mods
Yeah, it's
period.
supposedly an adaptation of their early life,
Yeah,
you might say.
yeah, and a lot of songs on that album was like one of the standout tracks for that was of course "Love Reign Over Me," which was the closing track. There was one
Yeah,
called "Dr. Jimmy,"
right.
and which I remember hearing, which had the F word in that song, if I remember.
And it's the real me.
Oh yeah, that was. I remember the metal band Wasp did a cover of that song on one of their albums. There, that was one of the original. That was a real powerhouse of a tune there.
Yeah, and a lot of these songs are good. 515, Sea and Sand, Drowned, Bellboy.
Yeah, absolutely. Which Keith Moon, I guess, contributed on the vocals of that song as well.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on this album.
Absolutely, there.
It's worth a listen.
I remember watching a documentary on the VH1 Classic channel about that album, and I guess they were talking about it, this and that, and a lot of the technology that they had was very primitive to the technology we got now. Whereas back then they had to, it would take how many tries, how many effects, how many of this they would to get this particular sound or effect that they wanted. Whereas today
Right.
you could just do it on a laptop and on a computer there.
Which is, I guess, what Adrian Belew does with King Crimson and his guitar stuff he does.
Yeah,
He runs it through a computer.
yeah,
And they followed this up with Who by Numbers, which that had some good stuff on it, but I guess the most memorable songs were Slip Kid and Squeeze Box.
um, Mama's got a squeeze box. I think Laura Branigan. You remember hearing that name?
Yeah, that name's familiar.
Yeah, she did that song Gloria with the '82 Self Control, and I believe she did that song. Covered that song on one of her albums there.
And they followed that up with the one aforementioned, Who Are You?
Oh yeah.
Where they were hiding Keith Moon
Behind
behind
a
that
chair.
ironic chair.
Yep.
And that had some great songs on it. It had one called New Song,
Yep.
Had Enough.
Yep. 509, Sister Disco,
Yes, Sister
Flick,
Disco was a
Trick of
great
the
song.
Whisk. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I remember, like I said, I got that album as a Christmas gift while it was, I guess, it was a couple years before I reached junior high school, and it was just,
Yeah.
and I was very, it was a pretty damn good album to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Had
And then
enough,
Who Are You was about 6 minutes long.
uh,
And yeah.
absolutely.
And then they followed that up with Face Dances, which
Yep.
that's actually pretty good. Well, I don't really have what I'd call a bad Who album.
Oh, by the way, I just looked up on something here, believe it or not, on the song Squeeze Box. Freddie Fender, who was a singer, did his cover version of it in 1979. And of
Wow.
course, Laura, as I mentioned, Laura Branigan did her version on her album Branigan 2 in 1983. And the glam rock band Poison did
Huh.
their version. Believe it or not, it was released as
Interesting.
a single from that album called Holly Weird from 2002. That the song was re-released in 2007 on that album called Poisoned, whereas where all the tracks are covered songs. He,
Yeah.
so there we
The
go. Interesting there.
the hits off this album were You Better You Bet
Yep. Face
and Another
dances.
Tricky Day.
Yep. And the quiet one, as I mentioned before, sung and
Right.
written by Entwistle there. And this was the first album, official album, to feature Kenny Jones replacing Keith Moon. Keith
Right.
Moon, what he was is he took too much of this medication that he knew very little about, and he sadly just passed away. And this was back in 1978. Of course, they decided to do a tour a year later with Kenny Jones as a drummer there. But compared to Keith Moon, would you say that Kenny Jones was kind of more calm, cool, and collected?
Yeah, he's a little bit suppressed compared to Moon. Of course, Moon is cut out of the same cloth John Bonham was, because Bonham was another one of those
Yes.
manic drummers.
Yep. And I guess there was this would later spawn the long, lifelong debate, saying should the Who continued after Moon's death? Because even Daltrey even said after Keith died, the Who should have just called it quits there. Some of that magic was gone.
Yeah, but they still released some good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't at the same level,
yeah.
but it was not bad.
It was good, but not horrible. It was not bad, but it was kind of calm.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, you can tell in the songs that I'm going to mention here and there, especially off the It's Hard album, Athena and Eminence Front.
Yep.
Those two were subdued compared to what they'd have probably done a while back.
Yeah. Because I guess Chad Smith from the original Red Hot Chili Peppers described it best. Most drummers when they play be like boo do 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 do, whereas Keith Moon's like boo do 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 do. That's how Keith Moon often played a lot of times. He would often ad lib, a little bit this particular tom tom or this hi hat or this little floor tom there into his drumming style there.
Yeah, it's funny because the next two albums I'm not that familiar with because actually I wasn't even aware of them. Was One of them just labeled Who, and the other one's Endless Wire.
Oh yeah, I know Swire. That came out in 2006. At
Yeah,
this time it was just Daltrey and Townsend. John Entwistle died in Vegas in 2002. Apparently, what it
Yeah.
was, he had spent that night. He had little this. He had some heart pills with him. He had two hearing aids with him, and I guess he's they slept and apparently he passed away. I know the stripper who was accompanying him at that time had a lot of details to tell about that. After that, she described all that there,
Yeah.
and the man. I guess from what I understand, the Who went on tour anyways. It was scheduled to do that tour prior to his death. And I guess
Right.
they did the tour basically to pay for the funeral arrangements, if I was correct.
That would sound about right.
I mean, like, wow. I mean, I didn't realize that a funeral could cost so much nowadays.
Yeah. One other album that I'm thinking of right quick that I'd like to mention is Live at Leeds,
Oh,
which to
yes.
me is an absolutely fantastic
Badass,
live album.
badass, badass. I gotta probably after I get done with this show here, I'll definitely start listening to that because I remember there was a program called Seven on Sunday where by one of the rock stations back
Do
in
you have the
Southeast.
original issue or the reissue?
No, I never really had it at all. But I would like to get it downloaded onto my MP3 or phone sometime soon. But if I did find, I know there was a deluxe version of all the complete tracks from that performance. I would
Right.
like to get my hands on
Well, the
sometime
original
soon.
issue only had 6 of the songs.
Yes.
Had Young Man Blues, which is a great version,
Yep.
then a live version of Substitute,
Yep.
then their version of Summertime Blues, which
Yep.
is
Gene.
great.
Gee, I guess that was Gene Vincent did that song.
Eddie Cochran.
Ed Cochran, thank you. And of course, Shaking All Over, the Guess Who
Right.
cover.
Right. And then they closed with two. There, I thought they did a 14-minute version of My Generation, which incorporates
A lot of
See
stuff.
Me, Feel Me,
Yep.
and parts of Amazing Journey, I believe, is in there too.
And of course, this
And then Magic Bus, a
their live
7-minute
version,
version.
yeah, which was pretty unique.
Right.
Very, very unique there. I remember sitting in my room where the radio station was playing that album all the way through with the lights off, and it was like, wow. The vibe
Yeah.
I got was I still get think about that vibe when I listen to tracks on that album today.
Yeah, they have released actually 2 reissues.
Yep,
One of them in 1995, one of them in 2001,
yep,
and they included more of the concert. And the interesting thing to me is essentially they did that. It's a slightly different version of some of the songs that were on that first album. And to me, one of the bigger songs that they did on the reissue that probably should have been on the original was Heaven and Hell, which is a John Entwistle song.
mm,
And that song is killer. But they also included Can't Explain, Fortune Teller, Tattoo, Substitute. Oh, I said Substitute.
yep.
Happy Jack, I'm a Boy, a Quick One, Amazing Journey and Sparks. And let's see on the second one, did they do anything different here? No, it looks the same as the 1995 one.
Ah,
And then there, actually no, because the 1995 one, disc 2, is the Tommy bit, where they did Tommy, the whole thing.
I see.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But Live at Leeds is, to me, one of the strongest live albums that I've ever heard.
And it shows the energy that those four guys had
Yeah, and
musically.
actually, if you ever get the Woodstock album, the one song from there that's on the Woodstock album,
Yeah.
See Me, Feel Me, We're Not
Yes.
Gonna Take It.
Correct.
Very good version of that song too.
Yeah, they did. That's where they speeded up the tempo of "See Me, Feel Me" and just made it into a musical mosh pit, or to put it that way. If the people would probably
Yeah,
be moshing to that when they if the moshing was allowed back in that day.
right. And among some of their compilation albums was Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy,
I remember,
which
yeah, I
had
remember that
quite a
album.
few songs that weren't on some of their other albums.
A neighbor of
Uh,
mine, actually, I borrowed that album from a neighbor of ours. He had that. They had that album. I listened to a lot of it there. And of course, we can't forget Hooligans, which came out in, I guess, in 82, 83, I think it was, on their old record
right.
label. And of course, we had the live album the live compilation Come Together, which came out a
Yeah.
year after I guess it was the 20th anniversary tour, including performances of the Tommy album, start to finish.
Right.
And there was one other live album they put out called Who's Last, which was recorded on their very last farewell tour date back in 1983.
Right.
Actually 1982, correct me. Because around that period, the Stones were first. That generated a lot of press. The Who, with their farewell tour, that generated a lot of press and a lot of coverage. And the following year, David Bowie would hit the road again after how many years?
Hmm.
Years. And that generated a lot of press coverage.
Yeah. And the odds and sods that I mentioned a minute ago had Pure and Easy on it, which, again, that song's pretty big. It had another one called Long Live Rock, which you probably heard once or twice.
I think so, yeah.
That's a pretty good song.
What song?
Naked Eye.
Yeah, what song is come together for with the band, with join together with the band? What album is that
Joined
on?
Together.
Join together. Yeah, that's on Odds and Sods or
No, it's on a different album. Let me
oh,
see if I
okay,
can find out which
okay,
one.
because that was played a lot of times there.
I think that's on. Oh, what was the Kids Are Alright? I think it's on that album,
Hmm.
but I could be wrong. But yeah,
Uh,
Joined Together was another song that wasn't released on an album. You have to look for it because it's on one of the compilation
all
albums.
right, let me find here. Send here. Okay. It was
Wonder if it's on.
released. You're right. It
Go ahead.
was. It was released as a single in 1972,
Right.
and it's later released on the Ultimate compilation by the Who. It was on their. It was on the second disc.
Yeah, and it's also on the Who singles, which
Ah,
actually has several other songs that weren't on albums.
nice. I think I got a Skype message from somebody here. Devious Dave Rose.
Hey,
He sent me a message on the Skype here. I guess it's Let me go over there and see what he's got, what he sent me over here. I guess it's a YouTube link or something there. Well, the premieres in 60 minutes. Oh yeah, it's
mm,
gonna be hip. It's gonna be on his channel there.
that should be interesting.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
They did another one called
I gotta get this on my phone and send it to you, man.
The Seeker,
Oh yeah,
which
I
was on
remember
that
hearing that
single.
as well, man.
But there's several songs that weren't on any albums but appear. Eh, You have to kind of look around for some of the singles. Sometimes you hear the abridged version, but again, I'm going to encourage people, if you're going to hear a song, hear the whole thing, not the abridged versions.
All right. Wait, I'm gonna find this image here. I gotta send you the thumbnail that Dave Rose has got. Hold on a second. Go ahead and keep on talking, dude. Okay.
Well, I was trying to think if there was anything else I needed to cover.
All right.
Uh, I basically don't have anything to recommend that you haven't heard.
That's true there. Well,
I
we could.
think that this is one of those groups that if you're familiar with them, I don't have to recommend anything because you've heard it.
Okay.
I know I can point out some of my favorites, but I kind of did that as we were talking about them.
Absolutely, man. We got, and sadly, as a result, as I think we already mentioned, is now, of course, Daltrey and Townsend, and at the same time, they currently have a Zach Starkey as their drummer, who, of course, we mentioned is Ringo's son.
Right.
And I forgot the guy's name who took over on bass guitar, but from what I understand, they came out with an album called Endless Wire back in 2006, and I don't know if that album sold anything or whether it did well or got played on the radio. If it did not get on any player play on the radio, I would not be surprised. You know, and how the rock stations are nowadays. They rather go for the old stuff than the new stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you know, but that
Which in
place,
some cases is justified.
yeah, because a lot of people at that time would like to, as like to prefer the old stuff over the new stuff. There, come on, give us a break, man. Some Maybe some of the new stuff would be good as just as well as the old stuff. You got to give it you got to really look into it, man.
Yeah, I kind of like to hear it and make my own judgment on it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that this wraps up our look at the Who there. I get.
Okay, and then next week we'll do a movie Monday night. And have we picked one? I don't think we have.
I don't know yet. I'm still looking forward to doing the special on Heaven's Gate there because there was a lot of crazy shit that went along during the film of that movie there. And
Yeah, I could talk about that, and even though
uh,
I've never seen it.
but if I understand from what I read, it'd probably be best that you didn't.
Yeah, it's one of those that you hear how bad it is. Oh, let's stay away from it.
Okay, but yeah, and the whole story behind this movie would later spawn a book about the whole ordeal there.
Yeah,
And
and
probably next week we'll probably talk about that Manitou movie that you mentioned just as well.
yeah, you still. I wish you could find that
I
one because
wish I
that
could
one's
find. Oh,
just.
I wish I could find the whole damn thing, but it's kind of hard to find nowadays. Days. I keep looking for clips on it, possibly on YouTube here and there, but sadly, so no can do. Sadly.
Yeah, Tuesday our music selection will be the Yardbirds
Oh yeah,
because we kind of missed out on them, and we should have spent some time on them.
spotlighted
But
on
there's a lot.
them.
Wednesday is a television show. I think we decided on Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes, we did.
Skip Thursday, and then Friday we're back to music.
Yep.
And I'm thinking we need to do a closeout show on the British invasion
Yeah.
because I'd like to kind of recommend songs and artists to listen to
Yes.
because we didn't really get into that. And I'd like to do that.
Yep. We definitely got to do that. And soon after the British invasion, we'll take a look at the. I guess that's when we take a look at the 1970s rock.
Oh no, we
Oh
got to
no.
do the '60s American.
Oh yeah, that's right. Duh. What was I thinking?
And
Forgot about that. So
what? There's a lot that needs to be covered there.
oh
I mean, we
absolutely.
can do. We'll probably do individual shows on the Beach Boys, the Monkees, Paul Revere and the Raiders. There are several others, but they don't come onto the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
But definitely those three. Tommy James and the Shondells.
Oh yeah. We got to definitely bring up these acts just as well. And
There's a lot of one hit, two hit type people that are out there too.
okay.
There's a lot to cover in the American, and there's several genres to. I don't know whether to divide it in genres or just talk about all of them.
Ah. All
But
right
there's a
then.
lot. We may have spent 2 or 3 hours on just the stuff other than the big bands. We'll just have to kind of see how it goes, I suppose.
Okay, definitely. Okay, so I guess that closes it out for today's show. A look. This is our look at the almighty The Who. And of course, the Who are still together, though it's only Daltrey and Townsend. With a bunch of backup musicians now on tour and in the studio.
Right.
And but let's also take the time to, while we appreciate their old material, let's try to appreciate the new material as well. Because I remember hearing a couple of songs from Endless Wire and thought, no, it's not too bad. It's pretty good. I have to listen to it a couple of times over and over to really get the feel of it. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
All right. All right. So this concludes episode 15 of Music Memories, Arknolia and the Doctor. Subscribe to both our channels. Hit some comments in the comments section there, and give both our channels liking and subscribe to them as well. Arcs and my channel there. Subscribe to them both. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you guys Monday.
Okay, you have a good weekend, man. Now keep in
Right.
mind, who knows? I don't know my schedule at my new job is going to be
Right.
next. Next going to be next week. So possibly there may be a little bit of issues there with the what we got coming up here. I gotta check the.
Well, just kind of just send me a message or something.
I will definitely on what's going on here.
Okay.
All right then. All right. Yeah, guys, have a. Yeah, I think I'll be able to do those shows according to this schedule here. Of course, it's not officially confirmed yet, so we'll have to find out tomorrow when it go in.
Okay.
All right. For Arknolia and myself, you guys have a good one. Take care.
All right.
Bye bye.